Every 5 years, King Harsha, a powerful ancient Indian ruler, deliberately emptied his state treasury, right down to the royal clothes on his back. He gave this wealth away to religious monks through a series of calculated distributions. He would stand at his court in Prayag, completely stripped of all markers of royal authority. To understand why an absolute monarch would intentionally bankrupt his own government every half-decade, we have to look at how religion functioned as a tool of 7th-century Indian polity. Harsha's personal faith evolved significantly throughout his life. He began his rule as a devoted Shaivite, a worshipper of Shiva. Later, his philosophical interests shifted, and he adopted the practices of Hinayana Buddhism. His final ideological shift came through contact with the Chinese pilgrim and scholar, Xuanzang. Xuanzang's influence was decisive. He successfully converted Harsha to Mahayana Buddhism. This spiritual awakening soon dictated his administrative priorities, shaping the laws governing his subjects. Therefore, analyzing Harsha's reign requires looking past passive religious tolerance to examine how he engineered a state-sponsored administrative framework for faith. Following his conversion, Harsha overhauled the legal code to enforce the sanctity of all living beings. The state mandated a prohibition on both the slaughter of animals and the consumption of animal food throughout the empire. This was backed by hard enforcement. State authorities punished anyone caught killing a living creature. Beyond the law, Harsha deployed his treasury to build physical infrastructure, funding the construction of thousands of stupas and massive Buddhist monasteries. He also built a logistical network for pilgrims and travelers, establishing dharmshalas, or rest houses, along the major routes of his empire. To manage the diverse religious factions within his borders, Harsha instituted a religious gathering held every 5 years to host, honor, and gift representatives from all sects. By combining infrastructure spending with strict nonviolence laws, Harsha engineered a baseline where interfaith dialogue was a requirement of public life. We can examine how this played out at the Kannauj Assembly, an event held late in Harsha's rule. This was a massive logistical undertaking. The assembly lasted for a full 23 days. The attendance reflects the scale of the event. 20 sovereign kings were present to observe the proceedings. The Buddhist demographic was immense, featuring an organized block of 3,000 Mahayana monks. This contingent held severe academic weight, anchored by elite scholars traveling from the prestigious Nalanda University. Returning to the attendance data, Harsha also invited exactly 3,000 representatives from Brahmin and Jain traditions. This precise one-to-one numerical parity between the state-favored Buddhists and the traditional sects created a combustible environment. Xuanzang's primary objective at Kannauj was to articulate the values of Mahayana Buddhism, but his arguments went further, claiming that Mahayana Buddhism was superior to every other religious sect in attendance. This triggered a sectarian riot. Rival factions attempted to set fire to the assembly, and an assassination attempt was made on Harsha's life. The state responded by deploying forces to suppress the violence, capturing and punishing the culprits. Despite the chaos, Harsha remained defiant. On the final day of the assembly, he publicly honored Xuanzang, presenting him with valuable gifts. The unrest at Kannauj illustrates a specific risk in Harsha's policy. His open favoritism toward Mahayana Buddhism created a friction point that rival sects met with violence. The Allahabad Conference, held at the river confluence in Prayag, provides a contrast to the events at Kannauj. Unlike the debate-focused environment at Kannauj, this gathering successfully brought together saints and monks from every religious sect in the region without violence. We know the details of this event because Xuanzang documented the proceedings in his records. According to those records, Harsha systematically drained the state treasury to zero, distributing the wealth to all sects without discrimination. He took this to an extreme endpoint, eventually gifting away his own royal jewelry and the clothes he was wearing to the attendees. Prayag represented the syncretic side of his administration. Harsha utilized massive wealth redistribution to soothe the sectarian tensions that were visible at Kannauj. It is critical to remember that the data for both of these assemblies relies heavily on a single foreign source. As Xuanzang was a Mahayana monk, His writings naturally emphasize Harsha's devotion to that faith. Yet, modern historians still accept the structural facts of these assemblies. Even if specific dialogue is colored by bias, the scale, locations, and economic actions are corroborated. Recognizing this source bias is a mandatory step for UPSC aspirants constructing an accurate model of ancient statecraft. Ultimately, Harsha's religious statecraft operated on two tracks. Track 1 was his personal promotion of Mahayana Buddhism, which triggered the hostile debates at Kannauj. Track 2 was his economic statecraft. At Allahabad, he utilized total wealth redistribution to ensure harmony among those diverse rival factions. In Harsha's model, the volatility of intellectual debate was offset by the stabilizing effect of cross-sectarian charity. Harsha recognized that ideological agreement was difficult to achieve. Instead, he used wealth redistribution as an administrative lever to maintain pan-religious harmony.